So amid all of the controversy and conversation and attention that was paid to Sean Rash because of what he said during the Midwest Region Finals for the Players Championship, one thing that got forgotten is that there was another person on the other side of that interaction. Matt Russo, who ran the ladder to get to that final and had ball in hand in the 10th to win, and unfortunately didn't do that. All of the attention got removed from him. He's 25 years old, and this is the first time he's ever been on TV, and it's not a major, but it's kind of a major, and he's just running through this gauntlet of EJ Tackett, AJ Johnson, and then Sean Rash, and then because of the way that everything kind of panned out, we stopped talking about it. And we forgot about the fact that he was the primary receiver of this criticism right away. He was the one standing in front of Sean. And I don't want that to be the primary focus of that whole event, because Matt deserves a ton of credit for what he was able to accomplish during the Players. So that's why I reached out with him, and I kind of had this podcast scheduled already, and then everything happened where he made the show, and then everything that happened during the show. So I gave it a little bit of time just so that he could digest and think about what he would want to say, and that's really what this conversation is. So I really hope you guys like it. Matt and I take some time to go through his past a little bit, kind of what his college career was like, what the early onset of his PBA career has been like, as well as what he's looking forward to, in the coming, especially this season, because, when you're coming off Rookie of the Year, the expectations are probably going to be pretty high, especially if it's just on yourself, but also from externally as well. So I really hope you guys enjoy it. This is 10 Pin Life Podcast number 9 with Matt Russo.
That is like the headline, right? Like everyone knows Matt Russo was PBA Rookie of the Year last year, but your resume definitely did not start there. I think in terms of collegiate bowling, you're probably one of the most well-credentialed collegiate bowlers that's ever come out, at least in the last 10, 15 years. You're also the first lefty that's ever been on the 10 Pin Life podcast, so congratulations to you on that. But I honestly, man, we'll take it easy to start, because there's a lot of stuff we're going to talk about that's definitely a little bit heavier with everything that's been going on in the last week here. But first off, how's your day? And second off, I guess, one thing that I think is really cool for people to explain, because 10 Pin Life is all about how we make our living in bowling, is, you're as fresh on the tour about as you can get. How do you explain to somebody else that doesn't know what you do, what it is that you do?
I'm doing very well. Preparing for the U.S. Open, leaving on Sunday to head out to Indianapolis. And then, this is our big stretch in the tour.
Mm-hmm.
You got your feet wet with the first major. Now we're into our second major and these big events moving forward. So today was a lot of practice. I practiced this morning, drilled a couple of new balls. We just announced a couple of new bowling balls from our brands at Hammer. And then our new DV8 balls. So I drilled a couple of those, liked what I've seen. So they are going to make the trip. The nice thing about bowling in Dallas last week was I got to keep some balls on the truck. So I don't have to bring as many this week, but definitely got a new mixture in there. I seem to always throw urethane, which ends up being great. It makes me money, but it's always good to have a couple extras. And with there being one truck this week, it's going to be hard with all these guys drilling bowling balls. I'd rather be prepared using the shop that I have back here in Illinois to allow myself to just be ready and prepared. But I definitely have gotten the taste of what it's like to be a pro at home. Being on the road, you travel, you're bowling every day, or at least hopefully, and, you're seeing friends and roommates and everything. But being at home has been a lot different. It's a lot for me to adjust. I stepped down on my job at Best Buy. Before I went on tour, I was a sales supervisor at Best Buy. So I decided that I was going to step down. I think winning Rookie of the Year really made it apparent to me that I can win out there, that I can do what it takes. I can make enough money. And then I started seeing the prize fund in some of these tournaments, and I was like, if I really want to, I probably can make, 50,000 would be a nice number in the first couple of weeks and or the first couple of months, and we'll go from there. So I decided to step down, and it was probably the best thing I ever did to not be able to feel like I have to be at work so much. I can make bowling my work. I can focus on bowling and focus on everything that I have to do. So the last couple of days, I haven't really been doing much, just preparing, drilling balls and practicing and spending time with my fiance before I leave again. That's the biggest thing, is making time outside of bowling. Like, with how much I travel, it's hard to be away from home. I've got 3 cats at home as well. So it's just hard to be away from all that. So making sure you're spending time, it's important. You know, Dallas was tough. There was definitely a lot going on, which we'll talk about later on, but it's how you step away from the game versus how you get back in has really made the difference for me, for sure. And I'm very glad I just get to, you know, kind of relax and wake up, go to the bowling center, drill some balls, kind of do my thing, which I've had an incredible opportunity at the Air Force Base in Illinois to be able to bowl and train there every day. Fortunate enough, met a guy named Gary Gruberman, who basically, I call him the manager, whether people think of it as not. I call him the manager there. He allows me and Lauren to basically do what we need. He'll put out a pattern. He'll allow us to use the pro shop. I've brought some light to the center as well. I made sure I give them credit for everything, because really without them, I don't know where I would be. With COVID, everything's shutting down. There was nowhere to train. So I was really able to kind of dedicate myself every day to where, okay, this is the time to get better. You know, you've got to get better if you want to win. These guys are very good, and you've got to take advantage of it. So that's my wave. That's my space, my safe space to get away with Lauren, her and I. You know, I don't feel like I'm in a bowling center. I don't even feel like I'm in Illinois. I feel like I'm just somewhere, and, you know, we're able to do our thing. So I really do appreciate what they've done for us, for me as well. And it has allowed me to definitely become more motivated and just work hard at it. So I will say the life living out on tour is a lot different than being at home. And I've definitely cherished the times I've had at home to, you know, be able to work at it.
Yeah, for sure. And that you actually bring up a good point, which I was actually planning on bringing up later, but it's a great point to talk about it. You are engaged to Lauren Pate, who, for those of that are listening that don't know who she is, she was pretty much an all-star at McKendree. I believe she's graduated now, correct?
Yes, finishing up her master's degree, actually.
Awesome.
As we speak.
Nice.
So she'll have a master's in her field of mental health counseling, which she's undecided what she wants to do. Probably going to bowl for a little bit and then figure out, you know, after that. But go ahead, continue.
Yeah. I guess that's it. Just the transition is, you know, you're talking about it from one side of how hard it can be to, to make that transition from home to tour and back. And you know, a part of that amplifies that is the fact that the two of you are doing it. So like by the time that this big stretch on the tour kind of comes to a close, then Lauren's going to be gone for like 3 months if she does the full time on the tour. And I don't know exactly what her plans are, but it's like, it can be very, very difficult. And, you know, you look at guys like Chris Barnes when, you know, he was full time and Linda was bowling full time, and there's other power couples that I could probably think of, but I'm terrible with names and history. But now this would be your first year actually dealing with that, or did you guys go through that last year at all?
We actually went through it once she graduated. I left home. I came here and we went straight on tour. So last year was the first time that I actually didn't travel as much with her on tour. I went to a couple of events because they didn't have the tour the year before that. So I went to a couple of events. That is my plan again this year, is to be at some of the major stops. The Queens is in Illinois, so I'll head up there. The U.S. Open's in New York, and my parents live on the East Coast, so I'll go there. But we also have the PBA League and some of the other summer events. So got to pick and choose. I absolutely love supporting her. I love being out there watching her compete. Sometimes I love it more than bowling myself. So it'll depend. I'm not going to miss a tour event unless an emergency or some circumstance. But I love absolutely every minute, you know, getting to travel with her and watching her compete. But you're right. It's tough. You know, we end in April and they start in May. So there's really no like break time to where it's like, okay, you know, now I'm home for a month or two and before she leaves. So you definitely take the time that you can and don't take it for granted. because you never know, when there's going to be another event or where you're going next.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Now let's roll the clock back a little bit. So, was it Nathan? I don't remember his exact name. I got to look it up because I was just Nolan Hughes did a phenomenal job after you won your first title in writing an article about you and kind of, what it took for you to get to that point. So I'm going to have a link in the description. So I highly recommend everybody checks out. He did such a good job. I want to give him a lot of credit for that. So we can kind of give the abbreviated version because he did such a good job. Tell me a little bit about your collegiate career. It was 4 years at Weber International, correct? You won a bunch of really good stuff, between being collegiate player of the year. I will say that you won 2 intercollegiate team titles, which we don't have to get into the details, all that crap. And I mean, just honestly, for being one of the most successful, bowling programs in the nation, and then you were kind of the guy in that program for the time that you were there. How do you look back on your college career? And like, if you had to tell the story of it, kind of how does that go?
Every year was very different. That's the biggest thing. From being there freshman year to, bowling against some of the best guys on the team, to then being one of the best on the team. It's a transition period. And then 2017 hit us. Yeah. And, I'll be the first one to say it. We got it taken away. There's really no control over that. That to me was one of the hardest things in my career, because up to that point, I was known as somebody who bowled on a team that cheated. Yeah. And that was tied to my name. It was tied to my family. It was tied to my friends, so for me to sit there and be like, okay, I'm not going to let this, run my career. And that's where I got to the point where I was like, I need to set something different. I need to be better myself. I need to be better for the team. We've got to do something to change what is happening. And then that's really where I feel like I just started getting better. I won the amateur in 2017, made both adult and junior team USA. And then after that, it really felt like my career started to kick off. But I definitely think that being at Weber, it changed a lot for me in my bowling game. I went there strictly for bowling. I went there to become better. I went there to train a kettle. I went there to get help from the best coaches in the world. And I truly believe if I don't go there, I'm not sitting here talking to you about PBA tour stuff. I don't think I would be, a 5-time member of Team USA and all the accolades that go with it. So I think there's a great purpose for me to go there. And I definitely will say for anybody who is looking to go there, you have to love bowling. That was the biggest thing, is if you love bowling, you're going to do great. If you don't love bowling, unfortunately, it's probably not the best place. And I tell that to anybody who asks me, whether it's friends, family, or just somebody who's a fan of mine, I'd say the same thing. I don't like to send somebody that's not going to succeed. Yeah. It is a tough place to be. It's a tough culture. They're very strict and the structure is very hard, but it only makes you better if you put in what it takes to become better. You can't just slide by in that program and expect you to be, a 220 average bowler when you're doing 160. So It all depends how you see it and what you put in it. But I met my closest friends. We built a team for 4 years, and 2019 was the most gratifying thing I've ever achieved. I almost didn't bowl in 2019. I walked in there and decided that I wasn't going to play. I felt like it was best for me to sit down and take kind of a break, a step back from it all, and just finish out my degree. And then I decided, with the help of some people who sat down with me, they said, you've got one choice. You can either leave your teammates behind, or you can stick with them. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to let my friends and my closest roommates do it by themselves. And it's the greatest decision I ever made, was to bowl that final year, and we won the national championship. And, still to this day, I talk to all those people. So it was an incredible experience, with a lot of stuff that came with it. But it was a lot of learning. Yeah. The nice thing was I went back before the World Series of Bowling last year. I worked with Ruben Giradosian, who is one of the world-renowned coaches, and he definitely got me to the next level. There was a small hitch in my game that I was trying to figure out that I just couldn't do it well enough. I just felt like I was stuck. I didn't know where to go. I couldn't figure out a way to get better. I felt like I was getting worse. And I practiced with Don Barrett, Oscar Palermo, and we worked for 2 or 3 hours and it clicked. And I'm still working on it. It's still something that I focus on, and it's every tournament I can pick it out and say, okay, I'm not bowling well because 1, it's either bad ball reaction, 2, physically I'm not doing the right thing, or 3, I just don't have it. So it's going to be one of the 3. But yeah, since then, really felt like I've kind of kicked off my career since 2017, the same year I met Lauren. So there was a lot happening in such a short period of time. But I really think that what happened in 2017 and kind of what happened in 2019 when we won, and with the passing of my grandfather and stuff, I think a lot of stuff has led up to me just being pushed harder and more motivated, to be out there and to be one of the best.
Yeah, for sure. And that's actually something that I want to shine a light on because, and it was highlighted very, very well this last Sunday, where you come off as an individual that's very collected, like all the time. Like you don't, actually when I was talking to Chris Prather about it, which he's actually got highs and lower lows than I think even you do, like it's very even keel. But you guys are both kind of, it's kind of a similar wavelength there, but like that, just because you look as though, you're very, very, very kind of just on that straight path, it doesn't mean that you're not motivated. It doesn't mean that there's a lot of drive. If I remember right from the article, it's like 2017 was kind of like where that fire really, really picked up. Do you like, what is the thing that you lean on in terms of creating drive for yourself? Like when you have to get out of bed in the morning and it's like that day that you're just wiped and you don't want to think about bowling, but it's like, man, I have to do this. What is the thing that you kind of lean on?
Well, here's the thing, Ben, that you bring that up. I don't ever not think about bowling.
Oh, that's fair.
That's really, I'm always thinking about what ways can I get better, or, the bowling balls I have sitting in my house, or just anything about bowling.
Yeah.
What really did it for me was when my grandfather passed away in 2018. He was my biggest supporter. He really was. He went to every competition. He was at every college competition. He just sat back there and watched. There was no critiquing. There was no, oh, you're not doing well. There was no, do better. It was just a cup of coffee and sitting there and enjoying the moment. And when he passed away, I was in Brazil. Unfortunately enough, the night before, I did get to talk to him. So it was kind of a very unexpected thing. But I almost left Brazil. I remember talking to Kelly Kulik and Rod Ross, and we decided that he wouldn't want me to do anything but be out there. Ended up winning some gold medals, which probably was one of the proudest moments of my career up until the PBA. But that is my drive. That's my motivation, is to just make him proud. Getting up at 6:30 every morning before going to work to go to the Air Force Base and practice for an hour, and then work my 12-hour shift and then come home and do it all over again. Yep. That was nothing to me. As tired as I was, I didn't want to stop going. I want to be one of the best. I want to win titles. I want to make money. I want to be one of the faces of the PBA. So I've got all these goals, but I can't do it by not practicing. I can't do it by not working at it. I've got to practice. I've got to draw balls. I've got to just become better. And I've had very good influences in my life. With Parker Bone and Johnny Petraglia growing up in the same center that I grew up in, it was hard to not learn from them.
Yeah.
Parker Bone's like a second father to me. I talk to him every day. He has been there for me any chance that I need. He was there at the show on Sunday.
Yep.
So when you have people like that in your life that look out for you and want the best for you that you can learn from, it's hard to not be motivated. Lauren has done more than I could ever ask of her for me when it comes to pushing myself to become better, practicing more in the lanes, kind of telling me that I am not as good as I think I am. That kind of stuff has made me realize I do need to work at it. I do need to practice. I do need to become better in these areas.
Yeah.
And without that, I wouldn't have realized it. And sometimes it's okay to take a step back and be like, wow, like you really aren't that good, or you really aren't as good as you should be because you're not trying.
Right.
And I started to separate myself from others and kind of practice and do my own thing and surround myself with the people that wanted to get better. And once that happened, when I got to the tour, it's the same thing. Andrew Anderson's one of my best friends. He is my best friend. I hang out with Chris Prather. I room with guys who want to get better. So it just all depends on who you surround yourself with that are going to determine how good you can be. And ultimately, that has led me to become the most motivated. And I enjoy, seeing my name out there. I enjoy, the activity on social media. I like all that stuff. It just shows that people are noticing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And ultimately just, I find more ways to become more motivated.
So now when we were in Milwaukee, one of the things that I have thought about probably every day since then, especially when I'm bowling, is the way that you described how it's like when you're out there, it's just having fun. It's just like, and I think that was just, the way your way of explaining, like just stay in the moment, because like this moment's really cool. Have fun with it. Right. So my question is, we have motivation and a support group and, the actual, accessibility and ability to become one of the best that's in the game. How do you balance that with the other side of, I still have to have fun? Because I think that's a hard thing. We don't want to take that. I don't want to take that for granted, because it's if we lean too far into fun, we can get lackadaisical. If we lean too hard into drive, we can beat ourselves up really, really hard. How do you find yourself balancing that? Or is this something that kind of is natural for you?
I think it's more natural. I'm not a very analytical type of person. I'm a field player. So if it feels right to me, if it looks right shape wise, that's what I go with. But I have learned just from the past, if I'm not enjoying it or I'm taking it too hard on myself, I'm not going to bowl well.
Yeah.
It's just more about learning about yourself. After the first block, I had 120 something over, and I was like, okay, we're going to do better the next block. And then I had 77 over, and I'm sitting at 200 over, and I'm like, okay, well, we're halfway through the tournament. What's going to change for tomorrow? Let's think about tomorrow. Let's think about what's possible. 150 out of the show. Well, I'm only looking for 10th. I was really only looking to get in the top 10, get that pay bump, grab a check, and move on to the rest of the season. And then I saw something different Sunday morning. I really saw something that I don't think anybody else saw. And I just kept going. But I was enjoying it. I enjoy competing. I enjoy being out there on the tour. I think that's the biggest thing is it's not even about bowling. It's just enjoy being out there.
Yeah.
For the longest time I can remember, that's a dream of mine, is to be out there on the PBA tour. So the fact that I get to live that dream just already sets up the moment of, okay, what can you do with it? And if I can do more than what I think I can out there, I'm going to be very happy. But it is just making sure that I'm still concentrating and I'm still focused while enjoying what I'm doing, and not get too much lackadaisical, like you said, or not get too lazy. But I think because I want it so bad, I think that's allowed me to not be so lazy with it.
Yeah, for sure. So now I think that's a good time to talk about, you talk about in that experience, right? Like you live in the dream, and, just being able to do the thing that you've always thought that you wanted to do and you've worked so hard to do. Tell me about them bright lights, man. I mean, that was first time under the lights this last Sunday at the Midwest Region Finals. Are you still processing it? I mean, how are you quantifying that whole experience?
Yeah, it honestly has been, it was incredible. Regardless of the outcome, regardless of whatever happened.
Yeah.
I remember it. I don't know the exact number of years, but the PBA lead was back in New Jersey, and Parker Bone was part of LAX.
Mhm.
They had a finals. They finished second, but after the finals, I was fortunate enough to throw a couple shots. No lights. It was just the blue oil. I was throwing a couple shots, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. One day, I will be there. Then I make the show in Jonesboro, and it ended up being flow bowling. Still fine. PBA title, incredible, right? And then we bowled the players, and I realized that I'm 50 in the show with a game to go, and I don't know what the hell's going on. I got my dad texting me, hey, what's this person bowling? And I'm like, Dad, like, I'm trying to make the show. Like, I don't know what else you want me to say. And Lauren was watching and stuff. And I just remember I bowled 230 or something. And Tim Madge says, oh, you're in. And I was like, oh, great. And I didn't really know what to say. I didn't know what, to process it all. And, it's just a lot going on. And then we get to Dallas, and we're practicing off the TV set, just practicing. And my ball was doing stuff different that it wasn't doing in Milwaukee. And I was like, okay, we got to find something else. And then we got to the TV pair and for practice, and I was like, this is crazy. Just the set alone, the lights, the blue oil, just everything about it was incredible. And no people were there, so it was just us practicing, whatnot. And then I woke up, I was nervous, man. I tell you, I was nervous. National television, a major, a chance to bowl for 100K. There's a lot stacking up, rookie of the year before that. And I was just trying to enjoy it. I said to myself, if I get past the first match, it's a bonus. I have more airtime. I can get more experience on TV, and I get to bowl EJ and then AJ and Sean. Like, I get to bowl the best guys. Nothing against Bailey. He was just a new player. So it was the same for both of us. So I said, okay, if I do my thing, I'll be fine. And then I started to love it. I really did. I got comfortable early. The best thing for me was that I made the 247 right in the beginning. And once I made two spares and I caught a double, I got very comfortable. Definitely still had the nerves going. My heart was racing. Obviously, it's national TV and the fans and everything, but I just got comfortable and I was enjoying it. The most part of it, I was like, taking it all in and just enjoying it. Really, that's that's the biggest thing. And kept looking over at my reps and saw my family and stuff. So. It is an experience that I will never take for granted. As much as it hurts with how the outcome ended, I really can't say I would do something different other than maybe make a better shot in the 10th, but just an overall incredible experience. What a way to start off the season, make a television show, gaining much more experience and putting myself out there. And my end goal of this year, regardless if I win another title or make another show, is I want to be drafted in the PBA league. I think that is the coolest thing that the PBA has ever done. The arena in Bayside, I've never been there, so that would be sweet. It kind of takes back to college bowling with the team aspect and representing a brand. So for me, that was my goal this season, was to go in there, bowl well enough, get drafted. Now I'm making a TV show and I'm like, okay, I can win another title this year. I can make a lot more money. I could keep making shows, but there's no pressure for me out there. I don't want to go into every tournament being like, okay, you have to make the show. You don't have to make the show. You just have to bowl well. If you bowl well and your score is well enough to make the show, you're going to be on the show, but you can't go in there. At least for me personally, I can't go in there every week and be like, okay, I have to cash.
Yeah.
Well, now every shot is that much more glorified because you're hoping to cash.
Yeah.
Right. So it's all about how you look at it. But the TV lights, it's like no other. There will never be another scenario. And if that's how it is without Bayside Bowl, I can only imagine what it would be in Bayside. And that's what gets me the most excited is the fans and the cheers and how loud it is and the atmosphere is. It's just glorified. And I really hope that I get to experience that one day.
Yeah, I do too. I think out of, because I did a little bit of analysis of that when they had the keepers and all that. And I just looked through the whole PBA roster and I was just like, who are the guys, like in looking at this free agent pool, realistically, especially of the guys that weren't drafted last year, who's got a really good shot. And I actually have the note right here. I swear is on the guys that weren't drafted. There's Matt Russo is the first one that pointed out. And then I put Wesley Lowe Jr. on there too. Cause I was like, those guys are freaking talented. So I hope you do too. Cause I number one, I want to just go there. I obviously I'll never actually bowl in that setting, but just to experience it. That's because it is at this point, you've got, that is the most unique, the setting in the entire sport. I think it's the one that, I don't know if they're necessarily trying to make it the model. I think it's going to be really hard to repeat, duplicate or replicate, but absolutely. So if any of the PBA league managers are out there listening, come July, you really, really want the two-handed lefty, Matt Russo, on your team. Listen to me. I know best. No, I don't. So let's what I would, if it's cool with you, I actually kind of want to talk about the show, at least in like the way that you were seeing the lanes, because from a third party's perspective, I literally watched 1,000, 2,000 shots get thrown over the weekend in Milwaukee. And then obviously, Euless has different lane panels. I think they're pretty substantially newer. The shape of everyone's ball motion just looked way different. To me, it looked like the fronts hooked a ton. What did you see that was that much different? And then kind of what did you do about it?
Yeah, going back to Milwaukee, Chameleon kind of plays relatively similar everywhere that we go.
Sure.
Just based on it being a little bit shorter pattern. So there's kind of two ways to go about it. There was hook in the front in Milwaukee, but there was also hook down the lane. Mm-hmm. So it made him a little bit easier to get to the pocket. It was just about getting a ball that wasn't going to hook early, but still hook in the middle part of the lane to where front to back you had the right shape through the pins. In the first 2 rounds in Milwaukee, I definitely just kind of not played it safe, but I was just trying to find something and hopefully get them all down. And I really was a little frustrated because the last 4 frames of the qualifying round 2, I actually found what I was looking for the whole time. And I was like, man, if I would have just did this, the last 13 games, I would have been fine. And then we bowled on Dragon that next day. And like I said, I saw some hook to the left and just the purple hammer rolled well enough to where it started to carry where I didn't think it was going to strike. And I just, kept going from there. Then when we get to Dallas, I saw a bunch of hook in the front, but a lot of tightness down the lane.
Yeah.
So essentially using a lot of surface to get your ball to get started soon enough wasn't as good as it was in Milwaukee. Mm-hmm. So as we were practicing before we got to the mandatory practice, I threw a couple different balls. I tried reactive for sure on the left lane, and then I threw urethane on the right lane. And I said, okay, this is what we're going to go with. The plan is mastermind on the left lane and then double cross or purple hammer on the right lane. Mm-hmm. And then I watched Graham foul ball, and I was like, wow, there's some hook on the left lane. If the TV pair is anywhere close, I'll be absolutely fine. If it's not, we'll go with reactive and we'll be, it'll be fine. No worries.
Yep.
I ended up drilling a double cross for the right lane because I felt like on Chameleon, I couldn't hook it because they were so tight down the lane. So I wanted to go more up it. Mm-hmm. And the purples were too sharp off of it. And the black hammer was just a little over under. There wasn't enough hook to the left and there wasn't a lot of hold. So I figured, okay, let me go right in between, drilled a 2-inch double cross, actually rolled pretty good. And then we get to the TV practice and the fronts are hooking way more and the backends are hooking way more and the lights, it's hotter and all of that, adds up. And then I saw my ball peel off of 5, 6, 7. And I was like, okay, this is exactly what I saw in Milwaukee. Let's go with it. Mm-hmm. And Eric, my ball rep, and I, we talked about a couple of different purples on the left lane. The right lane, we knew the black was going to be the play. It allowed me to stay straight enough. And it just read the lane the right way enough to where it got 9. If not, it struck. Mm-hmm. So I went with a pin down purple hammer the first match and after the 3-pin in the 10th, I said, okay, this is not going to be there much longer if I want to continue to make shots and make the step ladder. So I went to a pin up new purple hammer, and that's the one I threw the rest of the show. But I did see a good amount of difference between the centers, and I think that was the hardest thing for everybody to adjust, was how different they were compared to what we saw in Milwaukee versus what they saw in Florida, Virginia, and so on. So that was the hardest part, but I am a firm believer that I played them the right way. I wouldn't change what I did, and I gave myself the best chance.
Yeah. I would completely agree with that. It's, I watched every shot of that whole show about as intently as I could, because it was so fun for me personally, not that we're here to talk about me, but like just to see the difference, because, you got guys that, come in with a game plan, like you kind of detailed out. And then I just had that feeling that it was just so much different that day. Like everything just hooked so much more that day that decisions had to be made. And, AJ was probably the one that stood out the most to me. When you guys bowled against each other, he, it just looked so dang hard. And like, cause it seemed to me like he was throwing really good shots. And then it just wasn't doing the right thing. And the fact that you were able to control that, is commendable, because it was a completely different landscape on two of the same patterns from, what you bowled up here. And I don't know if that necessarily gets talked about enough in bowling in general. Is like, yes, bowling ball surface is important, and layouts and ball dynamics and blah, 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 blah. But there's also that other friction surface that we have to deal with that it can be so variable. I mean, even in Milwaukee, it was the low end hook so much more than the high end. That's like, that is one thing that I hope to shed some light on here in the future. I don't know exactly how I'm going to do it, but I would just want to say with all of that and how that's, there's so much unknown in that whole thing that you deserve a lot of credit for that, because I know that it was hard and I wasn't even there. So I don't want to finish on this, so we're going to put it here.
Let me say that first.
Yeah, go ahead.
Before I went to Dallas, I actually went back to New Jersey to visit my dad's center. My dad runs a bowling center, my home center, actually. Well, it used to be my home center. So I got to practice. My stepbrother's the head mechanic there. So just putting out patterns, and I was practicing with Parker's kids, who are brothers and sisters to me. So we were bowling on Dragon, and they were different, like very different. Into a sense where at that center, it's pro-am bowling. They're relatively new, about 10 years old. So maybe 15 around. So they're not super old, and they don't hook a lot. And the gutter is not very good. So you really can find where, your miss is essentially on those patterns. And I actually drilled the ball while I was at home in New Jersey for Dragon, in a sense of, okay, if your thing isn't to play, I need something where I can go straight, because I don't want to hook it where it's only me. And if there's no defined hook, I need something that picks up soon enough and is just going to roll off of the friction.
Yeah.
Kind of like a urethane shape with batted bowling ball. So when I got down to Texas, I threw that same ball and I missed the headpin 3 times. And I was like, well, this is not right. So that just goes back to how different they are everywhere that you go.
Yeah.
Where I kind of had the same shape as I did in Milwaukee in Dallas, but when I was at home, it was just relatively different.
Yeah.
So kind of seeing 3 different ways to it was just interesting how different they played depending on where I was at.
Yeah, for sure. And that's such a big thing that, like I said, it needs more attention. Like that's even one of the things that, like, from an outsider's perspective, I was even hoping that, like, Randy would talk about a little bit, where it's like, just say that the balls are hooking a ton up front, and that's why, like, it's super tight down lane, and like explain what that is. But I get it. I'm a bowler. I speak bowling language. It probably wouldn't make sense to the masses, but that, again, that's why I just wanted to give you a lot of credit, because, a certain percentage, I don't know how much of a percentage of the bowling community is probably looking at you like an enemy. Now, there's a lot of people that aren't looking at you like an enemy, but you're a two-handed lefty throwing a purple hammer. I think just culturally, in the sport over the last probably 5-7 years, that has become a thing that is really, really easy for people to dump on. It's just like, well, clearly, I didn't win because he's got all the room over there. He can throw that one ball that only works on the left. All this crap that is complete jargon and a complete waste of time. And I say that as a person that has gotten absolutely wrecked by lefties throwing purple hammers multiple times. I know that it works. It doesn't matter. It's in the rule book.
Let me say something first.
Go ahead.
I get that. I get it, right? Left-handed urethane. But I always stand behind, it doesn't matter if you've got the purple ball in your hand or not. You have to know how to use it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That's the biggest thing I learned about urethane was if you can't use it effectively, it's just like any other ball in your bag.
Yeah.
And being around Ruben, who is left-handed when I was in college, who taught me a lot about urethane, I was able to find ways to use it effectively.
Sure.
And then I got to the tour and I watched Butcher run me over every dang week.
Right.
And I was like, okay, I can't throw it like him, but how can I create something similar to what he does?
Sure.
And I started to learn more about urethane and layouts and, try and figure it out.
Yeah.
Whether it's softer ball speed or faster ball speed or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But going back to my point is, even if you have the urethane ball, if you don't use it effectively, it's just like any other ball in your bag.
Yep.
And that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's, to be fair, it's in play on both sides of the lane. Tommy used it in qualifying. I know most of the guys that are on, the Brunswick family staff, everyone has at least one. I've had one. I've had a purple and a black, and I think one other one. And I am a very great example of a person that has no idea what to do with it. So I never learned enough about it to have it be the right ball at the right time. So you're absolutely right. A bowling ball is merely a tool, and it doesn't matter how good the tool is if the person that's using the tool doesn't know how to use the tool.
Now it's different with reactive though, because reactive, there are balls that are made for certain parts of the lane.
That's true.
I say,
yep.
Pearl bowling balls, you would say, are made for drier parts of the lane, whereas solid, big core, heavy rolling bowling balls are made for the fresher oil patterns.
Yeah.
And then you get into the point of, okay, I'm going to take a big asymmetrical ball, shine it, have a weaker layout on it, and now I can use it on the burn because I want my ball to pick up soon enough, but I don't want it to go sideways. Yeah. So there's so much, and we can sit here and talk hours about different scenarios of bowling balls.
Yep.
But I think urethane and reactive are two different aspects.
Sure.
You can match up with reactive by finding the right core and cover combination, but with urethane, there is really only one or two covers, depending on how you look at it. With a pearl urethane and a solid urethane, even if that's what they're called, I don't even know. But that's what I'm going to guess, right? That's what I'm going off of based off what I see. And then a urethane core, whether they put in the new Black Widow urethane has a gas mask core on it, or you put in a purple hammer core, a pitch black core, with all the urethane balls out there, there's so many to pick from. Yeah. It's just about how can you use it?
Yeah.
And how do you use it effectively versus you getting your, cover core combo from a reactive ball. And that is what matches up that week.
I like the idea of putting them in different categories like that. Cause that is a good, I think that's a good way of separating it is just consider them in two different zones, because actually this was kind of funny. Cause I'm thinking about like, I one of the things I'm going to start working on is making like 5-minute videos explaining like the fundamental pieces of bowling. So like, what does bowling ball surface mean to the person that has no idea what surface means? Right. And then I was like, okay, So then you have surface, and then you have, okay, that's our X or our Y axis. And then we have differential, is how much of that surface are we using? And then I look at my wife, I was like, wait, this is a 3-dimensional graph, Brittany. There's RG in here too. And then she's like, too complicated, Ben, slow down. You want to make a 5-minute video, not a 5-hour lecture, settle down. So when you talk about the hours and hours and hours of time, we could talk about that. Same page. Absolutely. So I guess I will leave the floor to you, because there's a lot of things that I could ask questions about, but I'm not here to prod, but everyone knows what was said. Everyone knows the thing that was brought up. Not everybody knows all the details about how we got to that point. So I definitely have my curiosities, but I don't know what you're under directives on, or just kind of where you're comfortable sharing. So I will leave the floor to you to say whatever it is that you want to say about the way that show wrapped up. If there's anything at all?
Yeah. There's been a lot on social media the past week. It's been about a week already.
Yeah.
Not even a week. About what happened on our show. For anybody who doesn't know, essentially there was something said by my opponent, Sean Rash, which I don't know where it was directed to who or what, but it was said. And I went up and I needed a mark in the 10 to make the finals, and I got 5. And I split. I left it open, and Sean ended up winning. And that was it. I will just say this, Ben. It wasn't the right time to be said. And I have decided throughout all of this that I'm going to stay as silent as possible about it, as a respect of my personal brand, the people at Brunswick, my family, for anybody who was affected. I am going to let the PBA and the higher ups handle it based on what they feel is best. And the PBA already set their suspension and what they find. And social media is taking over.
Yeah.
I'm not the one that is going to be out there and say, okay, I lost because of what he said. Did it affect me? Absolutely. But I made a poor shot in the 10th. Yes, it may have been online. It may have been close enough, but it wasn't as well executed as the other ones were that game.
Sure.
When I look back to the game, I did rewatch the show. I will not watch the final match for that reason.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to relive what happened. For it being my first telecast, I want to remember all of the fantastic experience that I had. So I did rewatch the telecast, and I did watch some of the bad shots that I threw, and some of the shots that were great, and that has allowed me to practice better and work on that this week moving into next week. But I did make a poor shot in the 10th. I will say that. And I've told that to Lauren. I've told that to my ball reps, and I've told that to people. I should have made a better shot in the 10th, but there was a lot going on. In 30 seconds, it went from winning the tournament to losing, to what was said, to conversations, to commotion, to just about everything you can not want to happen on your first telecast to happen. So I do say that it was just disrespectful. I won't ever talk about it forward from now. I think it's basically something that I need to just let phase out the way that and it may not, it may never phase out. But I know in my heart that I'm not going to change what I do out there on the lanes because of what somebody said. I'm not going to let what happened in that final frame define my career bowling on television. I told this to my dad. If I don't strike against EJ in the 10th, I don't even get there. So it's kind of like, as crazy as it is for that all to happen, I think it is going to make me a better bowler moving forward. The amount of support that I received that I didn't even ask for from people has been just outstanding. People from other companies, fans. I remember walking into the bathroom after I got done and people were like, oh, you're going to talk to us? And I was like, I get I'm frustrated, I'm upset, but it's not going to change how I'm going to be or how I want to be on the tour, regardless if I won or if I lost. So I do think it's important that people understand that I'm not hiding anything, that there's, how it happened is what they saw on live television.
Yeah.
So I there's really no more for me to say on that, other than I can't believe the social media has taken over. I do see all the comments, and I've sat there and read what people have said, and I've sat there and kind of looked back on it, but it is not going to at any means define who I am as a bowler.
Yeah.
It's only going to push me harder.
Yeah.
So when I am in that situation next time, I do make a better shot. There's a lot to learn from what happened. And I think that's the biggest thing that people are missing is regardless of what was said, regardless of the outcome of the match, there's so much to be learned about how to act and what to do in that situation. And that's all.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing all of that. And I respect your position on just it's time to move forward, right? US Open is next week. Like if we're stuck looking backwards, we're about to walk into the hardest, potentially, depending on your opinion, at least one of the hardest tournaments of the year. We can't have our eye in the rear view. And I respect that a lot. I will give you 1 point of very, very significant credit as well is I've never seen somebody so close to making the 247 or 246 710 in my entire life without actually freaking making it. Like it got off your hand and I was like, holy crap, he made it. Like as soon as you let it go, I was like, there's no effing way that he just missed this. And it's like, and I like you're not gonna rewatch it, but Rob Stone's like, it wasn't even close. It's like, Rob, that was as close as you could get without making it. Like, dude, it was so good. Like to have that all happen, like you said, in 30 seconds, it was just like the highest peak, the lowest valley, and then you still put together, you executed a shot that I know very few people understand how freaking hard that is to do. So good on you, man. That's all I got to say about that.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, the ninth frame, which I thought was pretty good, and it was not a good shot, and I gave myself a chance. I spared it, but to do it again in the 10th, I probably could have put $1,000 that it wouldn't have happened. I'd leave the same thing twice.
Yeah.
And I questioned whether I was going to shoot it straight, whether I was going to hook it. I felt like there was enough hook to where I could hook at it, and to get one, it's crazy, and I will agree. Off my hand, I thought it was close.
Yeah.
Whether I knew the one in the ninth I made,
sure.
As soon as I let go of it, it was going the right way. I was like, okay, sweet. Just hopefully hit the 10 pin and we're good. But I didn't want to erupt after I made it. The match wasn't over.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I've learned being out there is like, you can show all the emotion that you want, but you still got a whole nother frame or game to bowl. Like once I got the first one in the 10th against EJ, I knew it was over. I just had to hit pins. So, that's the time for it. But for me to go crazy in the ninth was like, bro, what are you doing? You still have another frame to bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when I left it in the 10th, and I talked to Danny Wiseman, and Doug Kent actually talked to my father. Danny had his view on the shot. Doug, they were basically agreeing with each other that the shot was close enough. Danny thought it was a little left and it just looked like it was slow. And Doug said it was online. So, I mean, it all depends on how you look at it, but to go 5-1, and just get the 4 pin, I mean, it just wasn't meant for me to be on the next show. And I'm a firm believer that if it wasn't meant for me to be there, I would have gotten 9.
Yeah.
So it's just all how you look at it. But I'm just glad that I got the experience that I did this early in my career to where I can say, okay, next time you're in that situation, we're going to do something a little different.
And that's really what I would look at it too. It's like in a moment where your body is probably just like peak stress level, right? Because like all these things are going on. It's like it's a 10th frame, and if I just throw a good shot, I'm gonna win. And like, and it it does, and then it doesn't work out the way that you want it to, and then you still execute a shot. Like that's something that I personally think you should hang your hat on, because no, so few guys can do that. It's so hard to stand up there and just be, just your heart's pumping that hard and you know what it is and you sit in it and it's just is very, very well executed. So good on you, man. But that's where we're going to leave it. We're moving on. We're moving on. Let's look at the next one, right? Because Players is going to wrap up this weekend. Then you're rolling into Indianapolis, U.S. Open, and another 4 or 5 tour stops, back-to-back weeks, something like that. A couple majors mixed in here. You've already kind of talked about your process, but what's the mindset? What are you doing going into these next few? I mean, this is a big run.
Yeah, this ultimately sets the points up, getting close enough to the playoffs. We've got I think it's 3 majors left, U.S. Open, TOC, and then we got the World Championship. Yeah, Masters. So we got 4 majors.
4 majors left, yeah.
And those are all double points. Last year I didn't get to bowl the TOC. I didn't make it out of the qualifier. Now that I'm a champion, I get to bowl. So to me, I'm already ahead of the game with having, getting more points than I did last year. But I think because of how the first tournament of the season has gone, I'm not going to go into it any different than I would have if I didn't make the show. It's the same preparation every week. This is what we're bowling on. This is where we're going. What balls am I taking? Where am I staying? What am I doing? Just things like that. Just the stuff that you need to have planned because, we're not only there to bowl. You've got to stay somewhere, and meet up with people and stuff. But I think my practices now are a little bit different in terms of they're more dedicated to the situation than the entire tour season. So like this week's practices were just based off of what we're going to do at the U.S. Open. It was figuring out the balls. We get 10 balls. So I've got to figure out of the probably 20 that I'll have during this practice session on Sunday, what 10 match up, and we go on from there. So this week was about, getting the new balls in my hand, kind of seeing what they're doing. Am I going to take them? Are they going to be effective for me out on tour? Filling in some gaps that I saw that I may have. Because with the Players being on 2 patterns only, I only brought balls for those patterns. So now I've got to figure out, okay, we can see anything at the U.S. Open.
Yep.
We can see anything moving forward. What are the patterns and what am I going to do based off the equipment that I have? So a lot of it is just figuring out an arsenal, figuring out my group of balls. I'm probably only going to throw urethane anyway. But you've got to have the reactives in there. Working on spares. I ended up drilling a new spare ball. My other one cracked before TV, so I was using a spare ball that had a crack.
I noticed that you were using that gold. It was a gold spare ball on TV. I was like, it was a purple one. You were using the purple.
Purple one.
Yeah. Was that scary? That had to be, because every time I've gotten a new spare ball, it's a learning curve for me.
So I actually waited to drill a new spare ball until after I got back. So I was going to drill one before the show, but I said to myself, okay, well, you don't want to miss a spare on TV, but you also don't want your plastic ball to crack in half while you're bowling on TV. So which one's going to be the best play? And the crack, it wasn't detrimental, but it was enough to where I couldn't use it any longer.
Yeah.
Just right above the thumb, I could feel it. So it's just time for a new one.
Sure.
Definitely just dedicated more to just being comfortable with spares and, just making the right adjustments with the new spare ball. But I've always struggled with spare shooting. Two-handed, I don't throw it very hard. I've got a good amount of rev rate. So just finding the right technique and getting comfortable to where I don't have to think about it ultimately has been the hardest part for me. But we're getting there. And, every year that's one of my goals is to improve on spare shooting. I know that's going to get me to the show. Strikes or not. Unfortunately, that's how the game is going. You can strike 10 times in a game and bowl 190. And you can spare 8 times and bowl 220 or 210, whatever the math is, right? So it just all depends on how you look at it. But I definitely think spares have been the biggest improvement for me. So definitely preparing with that moving forward. But I'm excited for the rest of the season. I get to bowl the doubles in Milwaukee with Parker Bone, Hall of Famer. We're at Wauwatosa. It is a lefty center, is what I like to call it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm super excited there. I get to bowl the TOC with some of the all-time greats. So it's just a really fun season. I'm just excited that I started off as well as I did. Look forward to bowling next week. I look forward to, hopefully being drafted in the PBA league and, get to bowl in Bayside. So there's a lot of outlook for me this year. I'm just really excited to be out there and just really excited to keep sharing my story.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, I currently, unless, pending other circumstances, I'm actually going to go down to the TOC. So I'll be there. I'm going to come down on Thursday, which is the last day of qualifying, and then I'm planning on staying through Sunday. And that's a lot of guys that I talked to over the last few weeks. They're like, man, that's the one. If I could win it, that's the one. Do you have a tournament that like, or there's just a format or one that is in the season that stands out as like, man, if I went, like, I want to win every tournament I walk into, but if I win that one, like, that's the special one. Does any one of them stand out to you?
Yeah, the tournament champions.
Yeah.
That has been the most prestigious. Well, you can say the U.S. Open is the most prestigious because of how hard they are.
Yeah.
But I think the TOC is more prestigious because of what you have to earn to get there. You have to have a national title to bowl the event, or you've got to make it out of the qualifier as a regional player.
Mm-hmm.
That is the one that I do want to win, regardless if I don't win another title the rest of my career. If I can win the TOC, that would be the greatest tournament that I've ever won. I would love to win a major. I'll take any major, to be honest with you. I'll take any major. But if I had to choose, I would want to win the TOC.
Yeah.
And I think it would be sweet to win it in Riviera with all the history that they have at that bowling center. And when I watched Prather do it, it was the coolest thing. I think that was his second title, I believe. I think
second
he won
title.
Scorpion.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I call him the $100,000 man. I mean, he's really good at winning 100K. But yeah, I mean, that's the one for me. That's the one that I do want to win for sure.
Let's wrap. I don't need to take up your whole night. Let's wrap this up in an interesting way. I have two things that I wrote down. First off, I gotta know, because you've bowled, you bowled 4 years in college on great teams. We're hunting Bayside. This season is like, where every shot is just one step closer to bowling at Bayside, bowling on a team, bowling with a brand. What do you like more? Do you like bowling individual, or do you like bowling on a team more?
I mean, there's nothing like team bowling.
Yeah.
But as much as I love individual, there's nothing like sharing the experience with other guys. We get to see that on Team USA. I got to see it in college. When you really become friends with those people and you get close to them, it just means that much more to win. When we won the team gold in Colombia, some of my best friends are on that team. My brother-in-law is on that team. So when you look at who you're bowling with, it's like, wow, like, this means that much more. You want it that much more than you want it for yourself.
Yeah.
Like, Andrew Anderson didn't bowl very well that week. I wanted it more for him than I wanted winning myself, because I was bowling well. The guys struggled that final 3 games, and I bowled pretty good. So I wanted it more because we were behind. So you find other ways to bowl better because of the people that you're bowling with, versus if you're bowling yourself, if you're not bowling well, you're not finding motivation to bowl better unless you're that type of person.
Yeah.
So I will say team bowling, to me, I like it more than individually bowling. But if I mess up, I'd rather be individually because it's only on me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a fair point. It's if you don't want somebody else to have to own your oops.
Absolutely.
And then last thing, because you've mentioned a lot of different names and a lot of different people and a lot of folks that you want to, give credit to, but you have any specific shout outs that you want to throw out to anybody? You've started your season off about as well as you could, and knock on wood, it's not slowing down anytime soon, but who do you want to give some love to, my man?
Yeah, I mean, first off, thanks to the Brands of Brunswick, Budsy Kelly, Brian Graham, Tori Dykstra, Parker Bone. Those guys at Brunswick have been absolutely incredible. I remember, that phone call I had with Budsy, and a lot of people don't know Budsy was the first guy to give me a chance. It's actually an interesting story. Budsy approached me when I was about, I think, 16 years old, and said, "Hey, we want to sign you to this deal that we're having with the Brands of Ebonite. We'd like you to represent our staff." That was in 2015. So I'm 25 now. It was around there, probably 17, maybe 17 or 18. Yeah, he was the first one to give me a chance. And I will credit him until my bowling career is over that he is the reason why I'm with Brunswick.
Mm-hmm.
When he moved over to Brunswick, it was just more of a sign for me to go there. I grew up with Parker and Johnny.
Yeah.
I just felt like I belonged there.
Yeah.
So without any of them, especially Parker, I don't think I would be with Brunswick right now. I don't know where I'd be. I'm not sure. Of course, without Lauren, I don't think I would excel as much as I have been because she has pushed me just to become better.
Mm-hmm.
She has been there for me when it's gotten tough. She has been there for me when it's gotten easy. So for her to continue to stick by me and help me out and just, show me that I can be as good as I can be, has meant a lot. My parents, they've supported me since I was young. They've allowed me to live out my dreams and go out there on tour and support me whenever I've needed. And then just all the people that I'm close with, the outpouring support that I get on social media, phone calls, text messages, the amount of people who watch the show was just incredible. Some of these people I don't even know. So the fact that I'm making an impact out there on other people has meant a lot. But I try and keep my circle small. So there are, a group of people that, and I don't have to sit here and name everybody. They know how much I appreciate it. I try and give them credit when it's due because without any of them, I wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be talking I wouldn't be out there on the PBA tour. So I definitely do appreciate everything that people have done for me. And I'm just happy that I'm able to go out there and showcase what I've got. I love doing it. I wear the turtles. It's a little bit different. To me, that's the coolest thing is being able to make an impact with a jersey. I've had people ask me, what's the story behind it? There really isn't a story. I just love Ninja Turtles. Orange is my favorite color. Michelangelo loves pizza. I love pizza. It just all adds up. So I've got all these turtle dolls and I, buy Michelangelo stuff. And it's it's something that keeps me going. It's something different. I truly love it. And to be able to go out there and just represent the brands of DV8, put them on the map with a company that wasn't really out there. And now we've got some staffers that are really making a name for it. So I just appreciate every opportunity that I get. And I hope that I make everybody proud.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to have had this conversation. I know it was definitely something that was not that the timing was weird with everything that happened last weekend and all that. So number one, thank you so much for hanging out, sharing your story, being able to kind of talk about everything that happened. And honestly, I cannot wish you more than the best of luck moving forward the rest of this year too. You said it yourself. You started out in a way that is almost as good as it could have gotten, and I hope it only goes up from here for you, bro. I think that's I would be amazed if one of those PBA league managers doesn't listen to my very esteemed opinion. But like I said, man, best of luck. I'm sure we'll be crossing paths here, throughout the season too. But thanks for hanging out. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a pleasure. I'm glad we got to talk. I love sharing my story. I love what you're doing for the game of bowling. It's really cool to see people in the light be shined by your stuff. I really think it's what we're missing in our sport is for somebody who is not a big name in bowling to sit down with the biggest names and just share their story. I think that's what is the disconnect is everybody sees us as these bowlers, but there's no personal side to it. And the fact that you're doing this, I really do think it's the coolest thing. So I do hope I see you more out there on the PBA tour. And I continue to look forward to, maybe collaborating with you in the future and seeing more of your podcasts. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, Matt. I really appreciate it. But I'm going to let you have a wonderful evening so that you can hang out with everybody at home before you get out on the road. So
it's just me and the cats. I've got me and 3 cats right now. Lauren's at work, so it's just me and the cats. They're running around doing their thing. I've got some nice dinner in the crock pot here cooking, and just gonna watch the seating tonight and get some bowling stuff ready for tomorrow, Sunday. But no, this has been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you very much for the time, Matt. I really appreciate it, and best of luck at the U.S. Open.